post-lunch, I hear the bell ring, and let's get that bell, keep going. All right, I love this topic. I think we all do because it was the hype of 2022, 23, until AI came and kicked its butt and took over all the media surrounding those two buzzwords up there. So we have a lot of questions. We have some experts on the panel. Quick introductions from everybody, and then we'll get into it.
So, hi everyone. My name is Oleg. I'm founder and CEO of Artyfact Metaverse.
Hi everyone. I'm Zara Zamani, CSO at ChromaWay, creator of Layer 1 Chromia and multiple crypto games, and co-founder of Neoki decentralized matrix.
Well, my intro is not going to be that short because I think I'm really pretty special. I'm the CEO of Holodeck Ventures. I spent 20 years in and around the venture space, either building companies or investing in companies. About 6 years ago, I pivoted everything I was doing to gaming. I'm a hardcore gamer. Today, I host a show on CNBC Arabia called Game Changers, which is the fastest growing show in CNBC's history. 50 million people watch it in MENA region. Highly recommend if you're into gaming or metaverse, check it out. And I also authored Metaverse Dream, which if you're interested in a beautiful metaverse book, go check that out. But I love to talk about anything gaming and metaverse, and happy to do that today.
My name is Yaroslav. I'm founder and CEO of Yard Hub, Web3-focused venture studio and accelerator. We're based in Dubai. Gamify is one of our favorite verticals, so happy to talk today about Gamify.
Kevin Soltani, GIMA Group. I'll moderate the session today. We've invested in a lot of blockchain-based companies, mainly over the last 10 years, but for gaming and esports, and the purpose of today's conversation, we have a few entities. I own one of the larger esports agencies, and we manage some of the larger players in Web 2 games, and Web 3 wasn't so successful in its first edition. Just to segue from that intro into straight Web 3 gaming and the metaverse. The metaverse is dead, guys. The metaverse is dead. I'm sorry to say, but if you haven't heard, there's not much going on. Or that's what they want you to think, right? And so we're here to debunk those few words that the metaverse is dead, but we had something happen that created a catalyst that we could not have built on, and it hasn't been built successfully. Meta did something that created a shift in not only their name, brand, but they created now the space, and they obviously put a lot of failed dollars to work. We'll see if it's so failed coming up. But that was essentially the door opening for small businesses, small, medium-sized businesses that are either gaming companies, design companies, developers, Hollywood producers, to actually start storytelling in the metaverse. That just never happened. So controversial topic, but a very real one. This is the only one I'll do down the line. But the metaverse is dead. Agree, disagree, and why does everybody think that?
So I think that metaverse not that fully yet, but the biggest issue of metaverse is that there is not a lot of use cases for that. And that's why, for example, me and my team, we decided to focus more on gaming and less on metaverse. As metaverse, in my project, we have only events. And I think that for now, only events can be one of the main metaverse use cases, in my opinion.
That's a very interesting opinion. I disagree. I totally disagree that the metaverse is dead. I think metaverse is not alive yet. We haven't really reached there yet. I mean, how many of you in the room have children of 10 to 15? Okay. Not many have many children, but I have one, right? And they are constantly on Roblox. They're constantly gaming, right? They are living a metaverse life. Metaverse is not actually about having events. Metaverse is about building digital experiences, expanding your physical experiences to the digital world. We have not managed to build proper experiences yet. So metaverse has not really come to life yet. That's my opinion on metaverse.
Man, might as well come out swinging. It all depends on the definition. That's the problem, because everyone defines this differently. The crypto-centric metaverse is dead and will be dead forever. No one wants shitty 3D versions of websites that you need a crypto wallet to get to. No one wants that. And I'll prove it. I'll ask the different question. Who here has used a metaverse product? Put your hands up. I'm curious to poll the room. You've been to a metaverse. You've used it. Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up if you enjoyed that experience. Keep your hand up. Now, keep your hand up if you enjoyed it so much you went back a second time. Okay, 0 hands. This is the problem. So the crypto-centric metaverse is dead. But if you define metaverse as a subset of gaming, which I believe it is, to Oleg's point, that is very much alive and kicking. To your point, Roblox, Fortnite, World of Warcraft, these metaverses have been around, some of them a decade and a half or more, with millions of players, with millions of people who immerse themselves in it. That's definitely not dead. That's not going anywhere. That's the future I'm excited about.
I agree. I think the metaverses, they had the same problem as crypto had back in 17, 18. The hype came before the product, and actually nothing was really built. A lot of shady teams came to the market just to raise some funds, and that created that essence that, just remember the sentiment in 2018, crypto is dead. I mean, the blockchain is dead, no use case, because there was a hype, a lot of people lost money, so that doesn't mean it's dead just because hype doesn't need to come before the product. So as soon as Metaverse finds a place, like in the industry, and we start seeing real use cases with good teams, Metaverse will be back. And as rightfully said, Metaverse is not a new concept, actually. Howard Lovecraft created his Metaverse like lots of years ago. It's just the new tech that maybe creates the new user experience, but for that we need much more users, we need much more wearables, DAX, so going into Metaverse should be, you know, like super easy.
We are in Metaverse right now because I'm wearing Meta glasses. You're all in Metaverse right now.
Yeah.
Right?
You experience that and we don't. That's the problem. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the devices are definitely gonna make it much easier.
Yeah, but we need those devices. You know, like we need to have in our pockets, like integrated,
yeah, exactly.
like the iPhone.
Or not in our pockets.
Oh, yeah.
Or not in our, right?
Or
Or just, you know.
Yeah. So
The on-ramps, like the glasses, the headsets. I mean, look, I was an early investor in Oculus, so clearly, like, I believe in it. And it's interesting from an investment thesis, but from a driving usage perspective, no one cares, right? Like, you could have the best glasses in the world. If you don't have a reason to go, if you don't have a reason to play, if you don't have something to do there, it doesn't matter how slick the glasses are. And look, there's a future where, trust me, there's no glasses. The goggles you wear on your face are going away. And so the on-ramp, while interesting from an investment perspective today, not interesting from a long-term sort of, what's the 20-year vision for this?
So we mentioned a couple things that I want to now intersect for the topic here. And one of the largest games ever created and still is going strong after 10 plus years, and the new edition keeps getting delayed because, as Americans say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Grand Theft Auto 5 by Epic Games and their new Grand Theft Auto 6 is arguably one of the most successful AAA games of all time. And what Grand Theft Auto 6 has a chance to do right now, which we don't have a clear understanding yet, is to implement Web3. Now, what does that look like in a metaverse game? I would steer away from the word metaverse, to be honest, because as a B2C open metaverse, there's no existence of it yet. As a B2B metaverse, it's just use cases for medtech education, real estate, a little bit of industrial. Other than that, that's about it. So going back to the gaming of how we're going to combine Web3 and metaverse or gaming, look at what Grand Theft Auto could do. You can go into a game, order a pizza, and 20 minutes later, it's going to be at your door. At 7-Eleven within the game, pay with the digital currency. Hopefully, it's an Epic wallet or an Epic token. And this isn't so far from the realm. And I'll give you an example. Fortnite V-Bucks. It's not a token, it's not a currency, but it sells billions of dollars in microtransactions, and it's being sold at retailers like Walmart and Costco and everywhere. Now, you turn that into a token, it's one of the most successful gaming tokens period of all time. So how are we going to intersect Web3 and gaming? I'll start with you. And what are your thoughts regarding these new AAA game companies, and if they will implement Web3 gaming, and if they do, is it going to be successful for its economy?
So I'm sure it will be successful. If to speak about Web3 games, GameFi particularly, I think the main issues of the current GameFi games is that they can compete with the popular AAA Web2 games. And there is a few reasons. The first, usually they have outdated gameplay. Also, they usually use play-to-earn model, which focus mostly on earning. And it's happening, if to speak about outdated gameplay, poor graphics quality, and so on, I think it's happening because these GameFi projects, they are developed not by professionals, not by gamers. And so if to speak about my project Artyfact, and one of the reasons why we decided to build it, because we see that if we can create a really cool game which has great gameplay, great graphics quality, some unique game modes or some unique features in gameplay, and after all of that we will add some Web3 features like, for example, integrated token, NFTs, and so on. Only in this case we can create the really popular GameFi project which can attract not only crypto gamers but also the average Web2 gamers. And I think there is an answer what GameFi projects need to do to create some great successful Web3 game.
You said something earlier, and I want to segue it just to give new, fresh questions. Tokenomics have been focused on earnings,
right,
not on gaming. That's a very important problem with Web3 gaming. The tokenomics of the largest Web3 game in the world was its biggest problem, and that's Axie Infinity. The hack was a larger problem, probably an inside job, and the tokenomics broke down terribly. If we're going to get Web3 gaming right, is the token economy of the token and its game not the second most important thing after literally the game? I would say it's 80% the game and 20% everything else, but if we can't get this right, who cares about the game?
No, but I think that's exactly where we need to find that very thin line. If you want to be realistic, we have 3 billion traditional gamers today. And when you come to Web3 gamers, we have 40 million. It's ridiculously small number compared to traditional gamers, right? And why is that so? Like you mentioned, a lot of focus on tokenomics based on play to earn and less focus on the game itself, right? Whereas, you know, if I wouldn't say tokenomics is the second important. Tokenomics is the game economy. Even in traditional gaming, game economy is the heart of a game, is what makes a game sustainable, what helps a game acquire users and then retain users, as you were saying, right? So user acquisition and then user retention. So I would say tokenomics is still the heart of a game.
Right.
It doesn't really matter if it's a Web2 game or a Web3 game. However, that does not mean we don't need a good game. We still need a good game for the economy to work on. Right? And I think that is what the Web3 games have failed so far to build. Not only in gaming, in majority of the blockchain applications, right? We have failed to build really great interfaces, great use cases, so that the economy that the Web3 is actually empowering can live on. And once we start building that, I think that will be a big success in Web3 gaming. But we do see a lot of resistance today.
Right.
From traditional gaming sector towards Web3 gaming, though?
Well, because exactly like Oleg said, Web3 games were not developed by gamers, game companies, Hollywood produced, the people that should have been storytelling. It was developed by crypto people. And Metaverse should have been, again, story told by producers and game developers and AAA game company, but it was developed by crypto people.
But it's changing. Now
the story is absolutely
changing, definitely. A lot of gaming studios are stepping into Web3 gaming, you know, merging the knowledge, and I think that's we will see really much more quality Web3 games coming.
Paul, on the virtual economies of metaverses, virtual lands and in-game, in-metaverse assets that you eloquently asked that no one has, I saw 2 hands, but I don't know if you've bought your avatar multiple lines of clothes. I think that's what he was mentioning. Did you just buy 1 hat and never come back? Or did you play ice poker on Decentraland after an NFT went bust, you never came back? I think that's what he was alluding to. Did you come back? These in-metaverse economies, albeit very small for a terrible product, were pretty massive, and they got massive very quickly. We're going to see another shift into this, but the economical impact for the sector was pretty massive in these in-metaverse economies, albeit small in the big game. Talk about what that looks like in the next iteration of the next sandboxes and Decentralands, because they're not the only 2 that are going to be out.
I think most of that was being driven by like the crypto bros, you know, to the moon. Right. We don't care what we're buying as long as it goes up and to the right. Like I think that's what a lot of it was driven by. Frankly, I come back and I ask the question, and look, I'm happy to hear some of the comments on the stage because a year ago, no one would have admitted there was a problem. No one, right? A year ago on the same stage, everything was great. Web3 gaming's the future of gaming. Everyone wants to earn and own. That's the only reason people are going to play. And today, the tune's changing, and I think I'm so harsh because the tune has to change. We have to ask ourselves, why does Web3 and gaming have to go together? Does it? Doesn't have to. Gaming has done spectacularly well without Web3. Web2 gaming continues to grow at incredible pace without Web3. And if you look today at most of the pitch decks I get, it's still a lot of tokenomics, by the way, we're making a game, tokenomics, token. And you go, whoa, wait a second. You glossed over the hard part. Tokens aren't the killer app. Owning assets isn't the killer app. Fun is the killer app. Fun is at the core of why people play. Play for fun is the only kind of play that will ever succeed. And if Web3 people, and I'll accuse all of you, can't figure out how Web3 can make the game more fun, if you can't answer that question, those 3 billion gamers, you will never have them. There's no amount of explaining to them. There's no amount of trying to woo them. You will never get them. If you can't convince them that whatever you're putting into this game is going to make it more fun in some way, pure enjoyment, you will never get them. And I think that's the challenge that exists. I think that's the next cycle, if there is one. If there is a future for Web3 gaming, that has to be the next cycle.
Because if it isn't fun, and I'm not earning money at the current rate of yesterday's whatever I earned, and tomorrow's a worse day than yesterday, I'm out.
And by the way, Web3 isn't free. The second you take a Web2 game and you Web3ify it, now I need a crypto wallet. Okay, to your point, now my universe of customers goes from 3 billion gamers to, I don't know what the current number is, 150 million, 200 million people with active crypto wallets. That's my total addressable market. So I've reduced it by an order of magnitude but just by putting Web3 into my game. So there has to be a benefit on the other side, and it needs to be compelling, extremely compelling, to get people over that pain point, to get people over that friction point.
Yaroslav, thoughts on fun versus economies of Web3 games? And some of the thoughts I want to know.
I have a few comments on the things that you said. So first, actually, when we talk about 3 billion gamers, this number is like all the gamers, even those people playing the super casual titles on mobile
Candy
phones,
Crush all the way to...
which are, I mean, like, this is the worst gambling stuff ever. I mean, like, all the loot boxes in order to progress by levels, you pay. That's much worse than any Web3 stuff ever released. And that is actually being addressed both by regulators and gaming companies, and that is something that's going to change, like maybe not next year or in 2 years, but this is definitely the trend to be changed. The second thing is that in order to introduce Web3, and when we talk about Web3 in gaming, my vision is that the most important thing is actually the ownership of the assets. You say people don't care, I say they do, because let's have a look at one of the most successful gaming titles where people really pay money, which is FIFA from EA Sports, which is now called the EAFC. 70% of people playing Ultimate Team, which is like the money-generating part of FIFA, actually hate the fact that each new year, each new season, they lose whatever money they put into that stuff last year and have to start from the scratch. And I know that there are a few titles being developed by quite reputable companies, which will address exactly this issue. So whatever like cards players going to buy, they're going to have it for the next season to develop, so they like investing, they will be able to sell them as well later on. And I think this is actually empowering players. Of course, we will still have a lot of people which are casual gamers. Okay, I come home after work, I play a few rounds of Dota or whatever, and I don't care. But but the growing number of people, especially the young people, they realized that there could be a better way of game economies built around that. And it's not like inevitable that you should make them install a wallet right away. We already see the use cases when NFTs are being integrated into game process, like on the background. And if the player is sophisticated and educated enough, and if they want, they can later on extract that as NFT, own them, sell them, but they can just play if they choose. It's possible to create a hybrid model. It's not like this or that. It's possible to introduce Web3 step by step, gradually.
Why haven't the players come in droves then? Why haven't gamers, to your point, why didn't they stop buying EAFC? No one bought FIFA. They're so annoyed. I have to buy the cards.
I have a very easy answer. I have a very easy answer. Because gaming market, traditional gaming market, is not driven by game studios, it's driven by publishers. So as soon as a new game with like Web3 ownership economy stuff is released by a serious publisher, as it's released on PlayStation, on Xbox, and all the major platforms like Steam, that's where this will actually become a mainstream.
But this happened. Ubisoft did it with Rainbow Six. They introduced NFTs into Rainbow Six, and you know what gamers told them? We don't want it. It was a huge catastrophe. It was an embarrassment for Ubisoft. The players did not care.
But I have a comment on this. If the players, I 100% agree with both of you, by the way. If the players don't want it, it doesn't mean it's wrong. The players don't know it. Because now what you are saying, you're judging Web3 based on perception of uneducated players on Web3, right? Because we have a bunch of Web2 players that are actually quite resistant. And that comes from the wrong education on Web3, the wrong education on NFT, the wrong hype on NFT, etc. But it's way less focused on the real value that is Web3 going to bring to the games. So in that sense, I think we should not really judge whether Web3-fying a game is it can be successful or not based on the perception of the users today of Web3. Because let's have a look at the internet banking. When it came, everyone was suspicious of this. No one wanted to use it. No one wanted to use credit cards because it was a scam for everyone, right? But you couldn't say that, oh, this is a shitty technology because users don't like it, right?
The problem is that, first of all, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison because online banking had a clear benefit, which was you save time, I don't need to get in my car, I don't need to talk to a teller, I don't need to wait in line. The benefits are clear.
But that's what you're saying today. But if you look at the documentaries when it came live,
the Web3 argument that gamers just don't get it. To me, this is the worst and weakest argument of all. If you want the Web3 gaming industry to stay at zero forever, keep making this argument. Because it's so condescending to gamers to say, you guys just don't get it. You know, we're so much smarter, the crypto people.
No,
you just don't realize how great these NFTs are for you. Like, it should be a game, a piece of entertainment should be obvious. The fun component has to be obvious. And if the gamer doesn't get it, it's not the gamer that's failing. It's not the lack of education on the gamer side.
It's the lack of education from our side. That's what I'm trying to say. First of all,
I have not heard any clear benefit articulated from the Web3 gaming side. Not one. Other than ownership, which I would argue is very low on the list of I care about this or it makes the game more fun because I think it adds zero to the fun. Okay, maybe I can sell that sword 2 years from now for 50 cents to someone who wants the sword. But does it add more fun? No one has articulated that.
When you have a look at the black market of these games, you understand you're totally wrong. The market exists and it's multi-billion market.
For which game?
World of Warcraft, for example.
Yes.
Look,
a multi-billion market.
But they don't need Web3. It works perfectly well. Look, I have the perfect WoW story. I'm a huge WoW player.
So I am too, and I got a huge story too.
Look,
let's go.
Fine. Classic WoW, there was a mount you could get. It's an animal you could ride in the game. Okay? It was called the Frost Saber mount. To get this mount, you had to do the same quest, which took about an hour. You had to do the same quest 1,000 times over. I did this thing. I got the Frost Saber mount. Do I own it? No. Do I have an NFT of it? No. Do I care? No.
No.
It was fun. I got to show it off to my friends. The fact that I can't resell it today,
put that scenario in 2023. Okay, look, we can't go back in time, right? But the NFT argument of adding NFTs to game, Ubisoft messed up because they didn't do research. They were in a hype phase and they failed. They shouldn't have done that. And they're not a great gaming company regardless. They're not the best. But NFTs, that example, I use that a lot because I'm a WoW player. And I had a sword that I picked up. And had that sword kept me today, not only would I still be a very popular player on the server, it probably would be worth something. And if they wanted to add in NFTs or whatever, they could. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, so they don't need to. The economy of the WoW in the background on these Reddit forums and reselling of literally everything is massive. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, they don't need it. But the idea of the NFTs being implemented into games can actually create, and we've seen in secondary market sales, not primary market sales, in secondary market sales, multi-billions of transactions, because I can trade it, and it could come back to me, and it'll be 10 times the price. Because what you guys did with the sword after me, made it better or whatever. So the argument of NFTs in gaming, if it's a proper game, we've seen the thesis, although very small, in secondary markets be very active, very successful.
But come back to my question. How does the fact that we could all trade it between us make the game more fun?
No, it's just a community thing, right?
It's creating a meta layer of economy. I mean, like that brings more new people, that brings more interaction. That actually, for many people, it brings more fun. I know people who love trading in games.
But it's also about, I think Web3 in gaming is also a lot about creating a shared economy. You might be a fan of a particular game that you play for hours and hours for years, and you're never part of the economy of that game. The game, you just make the game more popular and bigger and bigger and richer, right? Whereas in Web3, you could, as a player, be part of that economy. That economy could be shared with you, right? And you are right, that might not make it necessarily more fun, but it definitely adds value, right? But there are so many other ways that, interoperable assets between the games that could 100% make it way more fun than Web3 games.
And we're so early.
Exactly.
We're so, and that's another thing I wanted to, everybody can comment on this or no one. Like the idea that the credit, I like that because we're only 50 years into the thesis of credit, and it's failed a lot more than it's been successful. Fiat even worse if you want to talk about credit. So if we're talking about Web3 gaming, got to give it a chance, right? We haven't even seen a full cycle of a real full cycle, Axie, okay, whatever, but a full real cycle looks like a AAA game company doing it, failing it, redoing it, and succeeding. And we're not even close.
That's the toughest argument to fight against, because the future's unknown, right? And you go, okay, we're just still early. And I think that's maybe the strongest argument for Web3 gaming today, because maybe the next breakout hit will be a Web3 game. Sure. I think what worries me and what I would caution people making Web3 games to be thinking about is, does making a Web3 game put you in a box? In other words, if I tell you, make me a really fun slot machine, could you? Probably not. Slot machines are inherently not fun. I put you in a box where the restrictions and the conditions around it mean even if I have the greatest slot machine designer in the world, the slot machine's still going to be me pulling a thing.
Yeah, but that's not right, because slot machine providers, I know that, they create hundreds and thousands of new slot machines each year because some of them are fun and some of them are not. And that's how they try to find those that people will like or will play endless hours. So it also, like,
look, if the ambition of Web3 gaming is to be as good as slot machines, then you've set the bar low enough.
I think you're framing Web3 as Web3, and then actually I think you're boxing Web3, as you said yourself. And okay, now let's just throw some of the games to Web3, and now these are Web3 games. And I think that's exactly how we should not really look at it, right? Web3 is just a layer that can change things in gaming. You can still have an equally fun game with Web3 elements. You can still have an equally fun game that people can join, just like Web2 games, but also with their wallets, just to have a control over their assets, just to move their assets away, just to own their assets if the game disappears, just to be part of the economy when the game grows, just to have an opinion of how they want their popular game to grow or develop further, right? So I think we should not really look at it, okay, can we make Web3 games? The question is, can we make fun games? Can we make fun games? Well, the history showed that we have made very fun games in Web2, right? Can we Web3-ify them? 100%. Do we have successful ones today? Not many. That's the reality, right? Do we have ones that, like, if you look at Web3 games out there, there are, of course, a lot of games that are focusing, as you mentioned earlier, on the play-to-earn model. So the fun aspect that we have so far in Web3 implemented is earning, a lot on earning. And that should change, 100%. That should change. That should direct to gameplay. And Web3 should actually empower more gameplay fun. But what I'm trying to say is Web3 is not a box saying, OK, now we have Web3 games, Web2 games, and whatsoever, right? It should be just looked at as a layer.
I like that argument a lot. And I think you're absolutely right. It should be looked at as just a layer. Where there's the devil's in the details is, does adding that layer poison the rest of the painting? Like, does it poison the rest of the art? Because as soon as you start adding that layer, now, again, I challenge the Web3 gaming people, not because I'm bearish on Web3 gaming, but because I want to see the dialogue change to the point where we can actually get some fun Web3 games. But I think there's problems that need to be solved, especially around, OK, now I'm going to add this layer. We won't even call it a Web3 game. I love it. Really good. We're just making a fun game. But now I need to think about, oh, how am I, in the life cycle, how am I burning tokens? How am I, right? Like, and you start thinking about all these Web3 mechanisms that need to be introduced.
But that's not Web3 mechanisms. That's economy mechanisms. Regardless of Web3, you need a good game economy. Regardless, in a game, you need a good economy, right? And burning tokens is just an economic mechanism. It's not a Web3 mechanism.
And then there's the hurdle, the friction of getting players into something where they need to do something they didn't have to do before. And yes, it's getting better. There's
games. That's UI, UX stuff. I mean, like, that's getting better a lot recently.
I've seen games like, Shrapnel's making a great game right now that I think has a chance. It's a, Tarkov-style game where you will earn items in-game, and only if you want to claim them later do you have to connect your wallet. So it's optional, which I think is maybe the best way I've seen it being done. But at the end of the day, to get that benefit, if we're arguing it's a benefit, you still have that friction point.
I have a question for Paul. What do you think if, for example, Fortnite will introduce their own crypto token, for example, V-Bucks crypto, or they will introduce their own NFTs? What do you think? Their player base will use it or not?
No, they'll stay.
I think 90% of their player base won't care. Maybe 95%.
Maybe won't care, but not like the Ubisoft example of get pissed off and leave, because the Fortnite players, they just don't care. They'll use it, but that 10% is arguably a $200 million, right? So 90% to your argument, 10% are not to your argument, but in general, that's about $200 million. That's not chump change.
You have to be careful what you lose in introducing that, though. And look, the future is hard to predict. This is all hypothetical. Will you lose players who are now worried, oh, this crypto thing's a scam, because that's the association in their head, rightly or wrongly, so I don't want my kid playing Fortnite? Do you lose 2 or 3% and you gain 5% who come for the NFTs? Maybe.
See, Roblox is a good one, because if Roblox, there's an economy in the game where kids can create games for other kids to play, and they can make money. It's a retailer, and it's amazing. What if that were to become a version of an NFT for a virtual land, but a much more sophisticated, wrapped, dynamic NFT that can charge players? There's an expiration date on just like gym memberships and things like that, and you buy my game, you play, and if I can reward. How about if that happens? Because Roblox wouldn't call it a scam. The players wouldn't leave because they love that economy of it, making and building.
Let's all be honest with ourselves. Why hasn't Fortnite or Roblox done it?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, that's the first thing, and the second thing is that they're still sitting on crazy commissions there. That's the more
on what?
Crazy commissions. I mean,
yeah, right.
Roblox charges crazy commissions.
Fortnite. They're not making any money on trading or anything
like
that.
Yeah, they don't, but they make crazy money on these loot boxes that players don't own. I mean, like the results of the loot boxes, the content they don't own. That's why if it makes, like, there is always an argument why big companies don't introduce Web3. Because let's imagine you are a CEO of Fortnite's game publisher and developer. And imagine coming to your board of directors and say, okay, now we're making $2 billion every year, but I want to try this new stuff. And the question you're being asked, is there a risk we're going to lose money? You say, yeah, of course. Just keep doing what you're doing good money. That's why the big publishers will not start this revolution. Some others, some smaller ones, will.
Yes.
But doesn't that sort of indicate a problem? Like, look, a billion people buy a new iPhone because they changed the port, right? Like, human beings, if you give them something even a little bit better.
Hold on. PlayStation just did a facelift, right? PlayStation 5 just did a facelift. They didn't need to.
But yeah.
They didn't need to.
Yeah.
But they did it because why not? So the port is the facelift,
but
right?
My point is,
if you can get another million iPhones out of people, if you can get another trillion in market cap, I'm going to do it.
Human beings were wired to like the new, right? We like something new, something novel, something a little bit better, something a little bit fresher. We like that. We're wired for it.
But
and
they're
so,
also smart. Human being is also smart. When
but,
I look at
it's not so. We can't. If the CEOs at that level are going, we don't want to introduce it because we're worried, because there's risk, and you can't convince them on the other end. Well, hey guys, look how much better it is.
That's what happened with electric cars. That's what happened with electric cars.
Exactly.
10 years ago, Mercedes and BMW will say, we will not introduce electric cars.
We'll come to Scandinavia
now
and say that.
they're switching to electric cars by 2030 because Tesla started eating their market share. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
The market just needs the first successful example, and after that, it will
That's
take.
it.
So, again, like, I want to introduce GameFi back into this. In my opinion, it's the only way for Web3 gaming to be successful, because if you build a game that's fun, and you build a game that's engaging with a back-end community network, and you can reward them based on a proper tokenization, then you have something like a really nice GameFi network. Because what is the life cycle of GameFi? Sometimes you don't even need to have fiat to crypto or whatever token, and you can just start playing. The first iteration of Web3, you had to buy some NFTs or something from $200 to $2,000, and then you could start making money. What if it was just free to play, play to earn, right? You start, you do, then they offer a staking mechanism. So token X gets earned, you stake it. With that rewards, you can only use it in the in-game economy for the in-game marketplace. Look at that life cycle. You're keeping the money in the system. What is Fortnite doing? Fortnite is literally taking mother's credit cards, swiping them for $100 V-Bucks gift certificates so the kid can go every night, spend it, and it doesn't reward him or give him anything tomorrow when the mom swipes the credit card again, right? So GameFi has a real big opportunity in order for Web3 to be successful. Agree, disagree? Quick comments. We have a couple more minutes, but I want to get everybody's feeling about this. Agree, disagree on what I just said, and any thoughts on GameFi?
Yeah, I agree. And you said something about life cycle. I think that life cycle can be really long, 10 plus years, if you be able to add something new to a game every half year or every quarter. If you can add something new, some new assets, some new game modes, something else, then players will play it for a long time.
Forever, potentially. Why 10 years? Look at WoW. You know,
plus,
it's
yes,
going to go for another 20 years. Yeah. GameFi, agree, disagree, Web3 success?
No, I definitely agree on that. And I think one thing that we should really keep in mind is that we are so early at Web3 gaming. And by the time we really mature up to reach to the point that you just mentioned, is the time that the generation that lives on Roblox today is there, right? My 11-year-old was telling her friend that she needs to work on night shift pizza delivery in Roblox because she needs more Robux than she has, and because she wants to acquire an ultra-rare pet, and she would wish that she could actually produce a physical one and sell it. That means she wants ownership, she wants IP of it, she wants Web3. She doesn't know Web3, she doesn't know what it is.
She's 11?
She wants it. She's 11.
An 11-year-old is telling her 11-year-old friend to work a night shift in a game to make money that is not real, to spend it in a marketplace that may never have any tangible assets. Did you understand that? And that's happening in the billions. In the billions. Roblox is one of the biggest market cap games out there. And they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So when I said that, I would argue they're ready to go. Yeah. Ready to go in Web3 gaming.
If we are building Web3 gaming, or I mean, I'm also quite super active in Web2 gaming, but we're building it for that generation.
Correct.
The reality is we will mature up until they come on board. And they are digital native. Like, they don't need explanations. They want it. So
to pass it for the last two, I'll ask the same thing, but I'll add in, do you think that daughter of hers that's 11, by the time she's 18, will want to buy a PlayStation for probably $1,300 then with the hyperinflation coming? Or is that going to happen? Or is she going to forego that and say, I'm good over here, it's free, I'm actually making money, and Mom, here's $150 a month for supporting my 8 hours on my night shift to allow me to do that. Like, things like that. What if that happened? So agree, disagree, Web3 gaming success, and...
I mean, no one will ever play to earn as a living. That's just ridiculous. No one, you know, goes to a Taylor Swift concert and expects to get a check at the end of it. Like, it's just.
But they flip the tickets for 10x.
It's not the same.
Just like NFTs.
But entertainment, at the end of the day, the transaction is you give me fun, I give you my money. And so coming back to that life cycle of GameFi, like, I'm not smart enough for this. That's complicated. The mom giving her credit card, that's simple. It works. So until I hear something better, I'm super bearish on it. I think the unfortunate reality today is the benefits are not articulated clearly enough, and it's not obvious enough to the gamer, and we can't just blame it on gamers. We cannot pin it on gamers and it being their fault. And it comes back to simplicity. Like, I'm a simple person with a simple mind. Make it fun, make it easy, people will spend money.
But I'll throw in a devil's advocate. I've never heard, who's saying gamers are at fault? I like what you say, we're at fault. And I'm not even a developer. I'm a very low-level game designer, and my team does very low-level. AAA game companies, it's our fault. It's this side of the table's fault. Not the
challenge is,
fault.
look, I spend an obscene amount of time in Discord. I encourage everyone to go spend time in Discord. Go into the communities, the channels of the Web3 games. What you will find is there are no gamers in those channels. Almost zero. Almost entirely all of the conversation in the Discord channel is, what's the token doing? What's the price of the token? When's the next token thing? It's all conversation around the token, and no one's discussing, hey, what's this feature? What's what's the latest build of the game? What's the missions they're putting in?
But Paul, name 5 Web3 games right now. Anybody on the panel? You cannot.
Look, I asked Yatsu that same question on stage, and he's put $1 billion into Web3 games.
Exactly.
So it's like.
Well, I can name one. We're building My Neighbor Alice.
Name 5.
Well, okay. Well.
Right.
One with 1 million players, and 1 million players is not even a lot in the gaming world, right? Like, it's sort of the
but that's my
to have a successful game.
That's my argument, which we all agree, which is the only argument. If it's too early, mate, it's just way too early, right?
That's a good argument.
But running out of time. Agree, disagree, just finish us off and...
Yeah, I will explain that, go in a bit further what Web3 is for me, for example, and it's not only about gaming, but the future. For me, Web3 is the new paradigm of how users interact with their data and how and their assets, and how they allow others to interact with their data and assets. So it's the matter of ownership, it's the matter of me deciding what information I'm going to share, what asset I will share, what I own, how I interact with it. So that's the place. MetaMask as a wallet, crypto as a token, whatever, these are all like tech stuff. They may change in 2 years, in 3 years, we'll have some other technology. But the main thing, and what's in there in gaming for me, and why we're building games with Web3 technologies, is this: first, the ownership. Second, and the ownership, by ownership, I mean the ownership of the asset, the ownership of data, the ownership of interaction. I mean, I, as a player, want to be able to use the time. For example, I invested time in the game. I want to own the time. I own it in terms of assets. Either they're interoperable with other games, or I can sell it and purchase assets in the new game I like. I think that's the essence of Web3 as a paradigm of interaction. Tech can change. This new approach, I think, is the future of actually everything, not only gaming.
My father stood in line to get the Nintendo 64 in Christmas at Target in Orange County, California for 2 days. This poor man of an immigrant who didn't have 2 pennies to rub together found a way to get me an N64. I'm not doing that for my son. I'm going to buy him a Roblox ready to go get, because it's not that funny. I'm not going to get that for my son. Your daughter's learning engineering. She's learning probably some type of low-level coding, design, creativity, and strategy.
Economy.
Economy, business. Games are not just gaming. And this is why it's so popular and successful. So if we can figure it out in this room, I know many of you are solving these problems in Web3, but I'll argue, forget about gaming Web3. What is Web3? What did you do today that was so Web3, except for check into your wallet or trade a crypto? What did you actually do today or use? Or you're wearing these lanyards, that's super Web3, isn't it? Right? We're so like left behind. Ask yourself, what is Web3? What are you doing for it? What are you building for it? Then add gaming in and you got 3 billion users ready to go. So we have a lot of building to do. We have a lot of problem solving to do. The reality is that the underlying fact of gaming, the fun, the interactivity, the community is what's going to make Web3 gaming successful, period, and the metaverse more successful. And I don't think any of us disagree with that. So appreciate your time and catch us off stage. We didn't have room for questions, but do catch us off stage. Follow everybody on stage here, all leading experts in their field. I know each of them personally now. More.
I'm going to invite Paul for a beer, though.
Yeah.
Just to chill down.
I love it when people come and disagree with me. There's nothing I love more.
Let's disagree more on beer.
I'm a tequila guy, but okay. You know. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.